Hey guys, I'm covering chapter 5, which is the meaning and value of work. This chapter focuses on the different types of interpretations of work and how it affects the employees as well as the business. I'm going to start the presentation off with a little short video about why people work.
We're all busy. All of us have work to do. But hold on a second. Why do people work? Well, the most common answer is that people work for money. They need money to buy food, to buy clothes, to buy gifts for loved ones, and there are others who work for their family. But that essentially means they also need the money. But what if they have a potload of money? What if they are like Steve Jobs? Then maybe they work because they love their work or want to revolutionize the world. And then there are others who work for betterment of science or humanity. And then there are those who work to break records, like athletes, sportsmen. Then we have politicians who work for... But do politicians actually work? Well, let's assume they do. So there are those who work to go higher up. And we have those that work for their nation. We also have people who work for God or religion. And of course, there are those who want to be known and work for fame. So we have a lot of reasons why people work. They work for money, for family, for passion, for humanity, for a sense of achievement, for position, for nations, for God, and for fame. But why do people actually work? In the end, we work because we feel good. Yes, all of us work like that, just to feel good about ourselves.
Now, work can be described as either a noun or a verb. But for this presentation, we're going to focus on work as a verb, which is described or defined by the act of doing something. There are three types of the meanings of the word work. We have a job, which is something one simply does to make money, or like the book says, a means to an end. You have a career, which is more of a developed relationship between the person and a job or an activity. And then you have a calling, which is when you as a person is described by what you do. And people really do identify themselves by their work, such as I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, and so on and so forth. And work can be intimately connected to values, because when people look back at their work, they can decide if the work they have done is worthwhile. Work has an extreme impact and value on individuals' lives. We work to obtain goods and benefits, which means it has an extreme instrumental value. But there is so much more to work than just simply earning money. The value of work involves things called psychic goods, which include feelings of satisfaction, self-worth, and happiness. Humans are social beings by nature, and work is important in helping to develop these social interactions, which brings about the social meaning of work. With work, there comes a social status, a network, a sense of teamwork, and even some work can be associated with an entire different lifestyle. The chapter goes on to say different people have different values when it comes to work, which is why people choose the vocation that they're in. It's not for the money, but for the value of their work. Because their work is part of their own identity. They don't do it for the money, they do it for the psychic good, the self-satisfaction, and the happiness. But what about working in today's society? As one might conclude, working conditions play an important part of a job. Working is necessary to make a living, and a job, salary, benefits, and even environmental settings can either add or take away from the job. In today's workplace, there's more of a gray area because in the instrumental value of work as it relates to getting a means to an end to a person's livelihood, people could possibly be put in a less than ideal working situation in order to obtain these goods. But there are two other trends that are happening in this workplace. One is that we're working multiple jobs over our working career, which is sometimes voluntary by the employee or done by the employer by being fired or laid off. And then we have the third, which is contingent work, which is temporary or subcontracted through a third party. But the problem with this type of work is there's less likely of a social network, any type of teamwork, feeling, or camaraderie. So that is why contingent work does not really help with the development of this socialization of work. But let's go into the views, the different types of views of work. We have the conventional view of work. The conventional view of work states that work should be avoided as much as possible because they see it as negative and should only be done if it cannot be avoided. One of the interpretations of this type of view is the classical, which depicts work as the individual is diminished because the individual is an intelligent person and work is a physical activity, and therefore work is undignified. A second interpretation is the hedonistic interpretation, which says that work is needed in order to get pleasures that make life enjoyable and make the person happy. This type of interpretation is more of a want satisfaction type of interpretation. Individuals want a particular item, therefore they choose to work in order to obtain it. The differences between these two models is that the classical is very specific on the rigid content, on how to get happiness, where the hedonistic always allows people to choose. But they all agree on one thing, is that work prevents actual happiness. And then we have the human fulfillment model. This model is described where work enables individuals to develop their full potential as human beings. This is a little bit similar to the classical interpretation because they both believe that a good life involves the development of the human potential, but they differ in their views because classical sees work as a hindrance to potential, where the fulfillment model sees work as a way to develop the human potential. And the root of this is that the human fulfillment model believes that a person has the natural potential within them, and what is deemed a good life is spent developing this potential. And work can be a process in which a person's potential is actually fulfilled. The human fulfillment model in the workplace. The chapter goes on to describe factors that occur when a person becomes unemployed. Unemployment has economic, such as lack of jobs, benefits, funds, but also has psychic consequences too, which can be anything from anxiety to depression to low self-esteem. And this model, the human fulfillment model, argues that when a person works, they benefit both socially, mentally, and financially. But when they're not working, their potential is not filled. But they also acknowledge that not all jobs can reach the full potential, a worker's full potential. And workers and their jobs have a give-take relationship. Workers have a semi-control over their job, but the job has a semi-control over how they shape the worker. The fulfillment model is different than the hedonistic perspective because unlike the hedonistic fulfillment model, it focuses more on what the job does to the person themselves, where the hedonistic model focuses on what the job can do for me. So it went from the fulfillment is to me, the hedonistic is for me. And then the chapter goes on to talk about the early writings of Karl Marx and alienation, which prevents the development of human potential. Karl Marx writes that work is not only just productive, but a social activity as well, which is important to one's character. It goes on to talk about the capitalist system and how it alienates workers and takes away from our potential. So it brings about the question, what can work fulfill? Through work, we have freedom in making choices, provide occasion for developing creativity, create social culture within work, and shapes our own identity. And work is an expression of our own social nature that keeps us from thinking about oneself. Now, the liberal model of work is the middle ground between the conventional and human fulfillment models. The liberal model believes that workers should be free to choose their work, but like the conventional model, they choose to do the undesirable jobs. But with the human fulfillment model, the liberals believe that workers are influenced by their work. And they argue ethical assessments of work is based on how work affects the actual workers. And these are how the assessments are made. On the human fulfillment model, bases assessment on what makes for a meaningful life. The liberal model, how will it affect the ability of the worker to make decisions about their own life? And liberals disagree on a specific or particular way that people should live and work, but a worker's do whatever they want attitude is not good for business as well. And liberals also argue that there are rights in the workplace that should be there to protect the primary goods in the workers, such as due process, which we will be learning about next chapter. The classical model of work is necessary and physical, therefore cannot be meaningful. It takes away from the human fulfillment. The hedonistic approach, work is meaningful with the goals of when goals are obtained, we work for goods. Liberals argue that business has various responsibilities to workers, the primary goods, and due process. An ethical workplace are those that tend to advance the human good and make reasoned choices. Here are the discussion questions, or the discussion questions. And here are the review questions. Thank you guys for watching. I hope I educated you some.